everybody, and welcome again to Parents with Incarcerated Children. I'm Mona Lisa. I am the founder of this organization, and today I wanted to bring to you two amazing women. You've already heard from them, but I'm going to let you keep hearing from them until we get most of your thoughts and questions answered, or at least get snippets of it, so that you can start on the journey to getting things in order to make your moves. I want to welcome to you guys once again Dr. Dominique Rimaker. She's a clinical psychologist, and Mayumi McKinley. She is a psychotherapist, founder of Epiphany Counseling, Consulting, and Treatment Services. And so today they're going to share their love and their brains and their awesomeness with us because they believe in giving back. And because of me willing to share all that I have with you, they can actually talk to you through me. And so today we're going to talk about what are the signs that we should be looking for as far as our loved ones are concerned when we think of the potential mental illness. And one of the things I wanted to share with you guys is when my daughter, just before she was incarcerated, it was a very brief amount of time before I realized that there was something going wrong. I just didn't know what it was. My daughter she was in college, and she was about 6.5 months away from graduating college at the time. She had gotten out of high school early at the age of 16 through a gifted program and was already in college by 16 and a half. So for those of you who go look up the record and say, well, she was 19 when she went to prison, there's a reason, because she was already in college by that time. She started to lose weight, like a massive amount of weight. It looked like maybe 30 to 40 pounds in 1 month. She started to look like she had big black circles under her eyes. She started seeming like she was sporadic in her thoughts, and she was not calling. She wasn't doing the things that she used to do, and she was almost like gone ghost on me. I would call her, text her, show up at her house, and I could never find her. And then she would pop up and out of the blue, have a conversation with me and make me think everything was okay. And then shortly thereafter, it was common sense that kicked into me to make me realize she might have been on drugs, but I did not connect that this was any type of a mental illness because I just didn't at the time. So ladies, what do you think the signs were? And the signs could have been and should have been that we should have been trying to look for, I should have been trying to look for, any of us should be trying to look for when we think about our loved ones possibly having a mental illness?
I think every mental illness is different. I think that, you want to pay attention to the small red flags that we brush off our shoulder, like, oh, they're just having a bad day. But, notice that for some reason they're really irritable all the time. They're really withdrawn, more isolated. They're hanging out with maybe a different crowd. They don't seem to need as much sleep as they needed before.
Or too much.
Yeah, exactly. What else? I mean, it depends on, the child or the individual. It could be they're engaging in more destructive behavior, getting in trouble in school more. And a lot of these things are not like specific diagnosis, but these are signs that you should start intervening, even if you feel like this was just a bad month. If it was a bad month, we need to find out why was this month bad in particular to the other months.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point with the behavior, because I think it's twofold. I think you have the things that are obvious, that are the kid that's getting in trouble at school. The teachers are calling. The teachers are telling you they're distracted in class. They're talking all the time. Or, at work, maybe your boss is pulling you in, every week saying what is going on. I think those are like more obvious kind of signs, telltale signs if you have a child. On the other end, you have the children who are doing well in school, who are academically they're fine. No, the grades aren't dropping. How do you notice with them? And I think for that, it's them subtle things. Your child. So what is different for one child may be something totally different for the other. So are they outgoing and all of a sudden they're isolated? Like Dr. Rimmerker said, are the friends changing? Is the circle of friends changing? Their dress, and then we know teenagers always kind of that, self-expression. They're going through that identity. Yes, but you don't need to wear long sleeves in the summer all the time. That's a telltale sign that there may be some other things going on. the crowd of friends, their grades, their isolation, how they talk, certain comments that they make. Goes for children or adults. Oh, it'd be better if I wasn't here. Or, comments, pay attention to the comments that people, you'd be better if I wasn't around. Or it doesn't make a difference, no one cares anyway. If that's not how they normally talk and your loved one, adult, child, whomever is making those type comments, pay attention to those things. Not eating as much, eating too much. This is the person that loves to go out to eat. Now all of a sudden they're never hungry when they come over to your house. They're changing jobs, job hopping all the time, maybe when they used to be a more stable person. I'm trying to think of all like the lame things that the layman type things that happen that we sometimes overlook with our loved one. And I would say, if you notice this, then wait till a quiet time and ask that person, hey, is everything okay? I've noticed that you've made these comments about you're just done, you're over it. And you made them a lot lately. Is everything going okay? And just making that first point to ask. But a lot of times it's those kind of subtle changes. Ask. The subtle changes. It doesn't hurt to ask.
Right. And it also could be constant worry and, very fearful of like social situation. Bullying is a big thing that triggers kids to have, depression or anxiety. So there's so many symptoms we can look for, but I just want to, encourage people to definitely just notice the small changes. If it's a 2-week pattern, it's time to check in.
So how do we do that? How do we check in? What are the things that we should be saying to our children, to our loved ones, our family members? How do we approach this?
Is everything okay? How's it going? You seem more stressed lately. What's going on? And ultimately we have no control over if a person decides to share information with us or not. If it's an adult, all you can do is be there, non-judgmentally, and be prepared for what you hear, because no one who's struggling with anxiety or depression or PTSD or whatever it may be wants to tell someone, oh man, I'm really struggling. I'm just really, really worried about my job. I can't stop thinking about it. And you say, oh, it'll be okay. I'd rather you say, I'm not quite sure what to say, but that must be hard for you. Or I understand. And be careful not to judge, because if a person's mother or someone they care about passed away 10 years ago and they're still grieving over it, the appropriate thing to say is, oh my God, you're still grieving over that? Let it go. Like, I can tell you the things not to say.
Right.
But It's more so just coming with an understanding, and no matter what the person says, whether you understand it or agree with it or not, just to be there and say, man, I'd rather you be more honest and say, man, I can't imagine how that feels, but it's obvious it's hard for you. Is there anything that I can do?
Definitely what Naomi said, and just expect resistance initially. Expect them not to want to talk to you. Don't let that stop you from continuing to check in. And when they do open up, don't make it about you. Don't find yourself saying, what did I do wrong? Well, I give you everything that you need. Why did you feel like you had to do that? It's not about you in that moment. If you have those questions, that's something you should talk to your therapist about.
And I want to add on to what you said. It's not about you. And so I've been through that already before. There's a difference between sharing your story and it being motivational, and sharing your story and it minimizing the person's process, whatever they're dealing with. So, oh yeah, such and such broke up with me a lot. You'll get over it. You'll be fine. In that moment, that is the end of their world.
Right.
Respecting where the person is and being careful that just because you've been through something similar or worse in your eyes, that doesn't mean that you discount this person's feelings. So feelings aren't right or wrong. Just allowing that person to experience and feel whatever they need to in that moment, and just being there. For teens, my suggestion, and you can tell me you agree with that, you have some parents and teens who have really close relationships and their teen does reveal things to them. And the bottom line is, I don't remember you being a teenager, but there's just some things you're not going to talk to your parents about. Period. Right. No matter how giving. And so I would say, as a parent, if you are worried or concerned and you've asked your child and they keep telling you that they're okay, and you just know in your gut that it's not, send them to therapy. Say, we're going to therapy today. If you don't have nothing to talk about, that's fine. You're still going to sit in the office. I mean, we don't want to make it a punishment, but not many teens are going to say, yay, take me to therapy. I want to go. Right. So send them and say, if you not want to talk. I have so many parents that come in and say, something's going on. They don't want to talk to me. They don't have to talk to me. I just want to make sure they have a place to talk, because at least you can guarantee that they have a safe space with a clinician, someone professional that's we can't tell them what to do, but we definitely can listen and guide them and help them understand the consequence of maybe some some of the things that they're thinking. And so I say just bring them to therapy. If they say the reason, I don't know the reason, you tell me.
Now, Mayumi, are you able to do consultations online, or is it just in your state where you're licensed?
I can do consultations online, but just in the state where I'm licensed. So anybody in California, they can either come in my office or we can do Skype sessions at discretion. So it just depends on the case. If it's something more severe, then I definitely want a person to come in. After an assessment, if Skype is appropriate, we definitely would be able to do Skype sessions.
Gotcha, that makes sense. Now, when it came down to my daughter, it was very clear and evident after all was said and done that she was on drugs. She was on a drug called Molly, to be exact. And what I noticed again was the fact that she started losing weight rapidly. She started being, when she would come around, she couldn't sit still. And it was either she couldn't sit still, or she would just go to her room and just crash for like 2 or 3 days and not come out of her room, not eat or anything. And when I would ask her, are you okay? Is everything okay? She goes, oh, Mom, I'm just doing the college thing. I'm just partying, doing the thing. And I was like, well, what's your grades looking like? And we go get online, and she's like, see, I'm still getting A's. See, so don't trip, don't trip, don't trip. So she made me feel like I was crazy, and like, I was overreacting and I was over parenting her. So it was less than 90 days after we had that particular talk, and she showed me online that she went from A's to straight F's and ultimately in jail from 90 days from that point. And what I have thought about, and on multiple times I thought about, what I could have, should have done during that time. What could I have done during that time? And it was ultimately the thing that drove me into a state of guilt and shame like you would not believe, because I kept thinking there was something I know I could have done. I just know I could have done it. But then when I think about it, it's like when a person doesn't admit to you what they're going through, it is very difficult for you to see, like as a psychic, like what it is that they're going through. What would you say what would you guys say to the parents who are obviously in my same position, where we thought we had it down pat? We thought we were on top of our game. We thought we had our child's life in our hands and things were going good and great and almost right. And then all of a sudden, just from under the rug is just snatched from under our feet. And now we're looking at a 10-year prison sentence. What would you guys say to us to help us mentally?
I think that's one of the most challenging things that someone could go through. Definitely my heart goes out to you and everyone else, who's experiencing something like that. And I would say you don't know what you don't know at the time. You did the best you could with what skills you had at that time. You noticed it, you asked, you checked the grades, you're asking her, she's reassuring you that things okay, or they're reassuring you that things are okay. You did the best you could with what you have at this time. And one of the fortunate things about you sharing your story is that if there are others out there who are watching this who may be in the same situation, they may take it a step further, because now you have the information on, okay, what does addiction look like? Right now you have the information, and sometimes you just don't know. I mean, now people watching this can say, okay, I can talk to my child about depression. So while they're in college, I can say, well, look, I don't know if you're going through this or not, but if you're staying up late, if you're isolating, that sounds like depression. I encourage you to go, talk to someone. I'm here if you need help finding insurance or whatever it may be. But I would just tell those parents, you don't know what you don't know, and you did the best you could at that time with the information that you have. And working on forgiving yourself is going to be the most important thing, because beating yourself up, the land of woulda, shoulda, coulda, that is a thinking trap, literally. It's a cognitive distortion that keeps us in a state of anxiety, shame, depression. You're not allowed to come out of it. So starting with forgiving yourself for not being psychic, forgiving yourself for not being, hindsight is 20/20 in any situation, right? And if you know you did the best you could in checking in, and asking questions and checking the grade, which is something that all parents do. You look for the telltale signs, right?
I did.
There's not much, right? There's not much more that you could have done in that moment, right? Because there's a whole nother human being who has their own mind and their own personality that's taking part in this as well.
Yeah, that's the part.
Starting with working on forgiving yourself.
I had to come to grips with the fact that she was an adult at the time and made these decisions on her own. I didn't hold the gun to her head to say, take the drugs, get around the wrong crowd. I did not do that. She made that choice to do that. That was very difficult to come to the conclusion that I had to forgive myself.
And I think parents also should notice that these are normal emotions. feelings of guilt and shame are very common when they have a loved one incarcerated. I shared on another show that the three of us did that I have a brother incarcerated. You constantly blame yourself for couldn't I have intervened, and we weren't raised like that, and you feel like it's your responsibility to have stopped it. But if you checked in, you offered solutions, you offered support, and that person still said no, then recognizing that you did all you could have done in that moment is the best thing that you could acknowledge to you, right in that moment. I think just recognizing this is normal. 9 times out of 10, if you ask a parent that has a loved one incarcerated, have they ever felt guilt or shame? They're going to say definitely.
Yeah, yeah. And to add on to what you're saying, it's also the gosh, I lost my train of thought. You were talking about incarcerated guilt and shame, as far as parenting. Oh, it's a common human behavior. Like we always, when something tragic happens, we initially go to who can blame, whose fault is it, right? What's going on? And so it's kind of a natural human defense mechanism to deal with something that's very overwhelming. We go into woulda, shoulda, coulda. Think about it. If someone's really, really sick, they go to, well, the doctor could have done this differently, or was the nurse as attentive? So noticing that's a natural human defense mechanism with something to want to go into what we could have done or what someone else could have done, but taking a breath, recognizing, okay, I did all I could in that moment. How do I work on forgiving myself for that? Because that can be a challenge in and of itself.
Oh,
and some people
absolutely.
don't forgive themselves. They punish themselves. And I don't know if this was your experience, but it may be other people's experience in terms of, well, I can't let it go. I have to punish myself because they're suffering. So I need to punish myself as a parent because I should have known. So I'm not going to forgive myself because I deserve that shame and guilt. I deserve to suffer too.
Well, let me show you what that looked like in my world.
Okay.
I used to be a person who would really go out and be involved with all kinds of social activities and people and friends and all that. And I decided I don't want to go out anymore. I don't even want to go in the public. I even moved my entire office and my employees into my home. Because I felt like I needed to be incarcerated and stay, even though I live in the free world. I needed to incarcerate myself as well. Now, don't think, you guys, that I figured this out on the front end. It was psychotherapy that I went through that they helped me to understand what I was doing. But that is what it looked like in my world. I incarcerated myself and then tried to bring others with me.
That's common because society blames you. Society, you have a kid incarcerated. What was you doing? That is something that is the part of the stigma. And I know we'll cover that later, but it's very common that you want to hide from what happened, from the loss of a loved one, because you're not ready to, one, accept that your baby is not here right now, and then I still have to go on to provide, my family a livelihood. But society is shunning me for something that I really didn't know I should stop.
Right.
I had no control over it all.
Mm-hmm. Right, absolutely. But thank God, I got past that and I was able to move the office back out of my home. I still have my own personal office that on occasion I balance myself out and I allow myself to work at home as a feeling of balance versus shame and throwing myself into, oh, she's not able to, live and go out. I'm not going to live and go out. I even went to the point of, I wouldn't eat really fine meals anymore. Like we used to go get steaks and we used to go out for seafood and we used to go out to meals, period. There were more than just a McDonald's. I mean, nice, fine meals. I even said, nope, can't do that anymore. Can't do it anymore. I got to cook every single meal at home and it can't be anything lavish. And again, I didn't realize I was even doing this while I was in the midst of it. I had no clue what I was doing until I went to psychotherapy and she helped me to understand exactly what it was I was going through and why I was making myself basically pay the price along with my daughter. That's very common that people actually want to they say once your kid goes in jail or once your family member goes in jail, you go with them. And that was what I was trying to actually live in living color.
I think it's the misconception that people feel like if they're suffering, then I'm honoring that person or I'm, respecting that person by suffering along with them. And it's almost a feeling of guilt that I've heard people express when, how dare I have fun? How dare I live my life? How dare I be happy if this person I love so much is suffering?
And that was the worst thing we could have done.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing. I realized that the best thing I could do for my daughter was to actually live, to prosper, to do better for myself, and to make a life that's building and growing, so that when she comes out, she can come back out to something that she was used to before she went in. Versus coming back out to mama's lost everything. Mama's now crazy. And, I mean, you don't want to put your own family member through that. The best thing you can do is stay strong for yourself. Would you agree, Dr. Rimiker?
I agree. You should definitely stay strong. You should continue to do your routine, because not only do they need you for support, they need your financial resources as well. That's a big part of how you can stop recidivism rates, meaning them returning back to prison. Most individuals return back to prison that don't have a support system. But if they know I have family, I have the support, that helps them as well. And they don't, deep down, they don't want you stressing about things that they have done, because they need you to provide them insight on the outside world. That right. You are their go-to.
Okay, well, ladies, I hate to cut us off, but we're out of time right now. And I do want to tell everyone who's watching this to, number one, share this video. Number two, comment below and tell us more about what you want to know, because we're going to continue to answer questions, and we're going to continue to talk about several more subjects that will continue to come through your feed, social media feed. So keep watching. The other thing is that I want you to go to our website, pwicus.org. That stands for Parents with Incarcerated Children, US.org. pwicus.org. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on Twitter. The idea of us creating this organization was to create a platform where we could talk about the things that affect us, our loved ones, and ultimately the system. We are looking to create a world that's more restorative and not just punitive. So we are looking at all of everything that encompasses incarceration, especially mental wellness and mental illness and mental awareness. So that's what these two ladies are here for today. And we'll be back again. In the meantime, don't forget, send your questions in, put a comment below, share this video. And if you are interested in booking either one of us to come and speak at any of your events, simply hit us up on the inbox. You can email me at info@pwicus.org. I'm sorry, .com, info@pwicus.com. And Mayumi, where can they email you at?
They can email me at epiphanytalkradio@gmail.com.
And Dr. Rimiker?
You can email me at dominiquerimiker5@gmail.com.
Okay, and Rimiker is spelled?
Remaker.
Okay, and Mayumi, spell yours?
It's Epiphany, EPIPHANY, talkradio@gmail.com.
And once again, I'm info@pwicus.com. So we'll see you again. And until we talk, remember, enjoy life.